Word on Health, the report with its finger on the pulse of popular medicine, with Paul Pennington. Word on Health, for your very best of health. Hello and thank you for listening. In this edition of the Word on Health podcast, with GP surveillance data showing consultations about double the 5-year national average, I look at scabies. And with sleep deprivation regarded as a major public health issue across the UK, I'll be talking to the Sleep Charity. But first, iron deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in the UK. Around 17% of adults in a recent UK study had absolute iron deficiency, and about 6 to 6.5% of the population has anemia, often due to iron deficiency, which occurs when the body lacks enough iron to produce sufficient hemoglobin, the protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen. This can lead to fatigue, weakness, pale skin, shortness of breath, brain fog, anxiety, depression, and other symptoms. Whilst anyone of any age can develop iron deficiency, it disproportionately affects women of reproductive age, and it can be dismissed, ignored, or not treated effectively, and research into iron deficiency has been poor. Issues that a new charity, Ironlife, is looking to address. The charity's founder is Professor Toby Richards. Toby, welcome to the podcast. For those unfamiliar with your work, talk me through your background.
I have a few roles. I'm a clinical academic, so that means I'm a practicing surgeon, but I also conduct clinical trials and research. And the focus of my research has been on anemia and iron deficiency and the impact of those conditions on health, both mental and physical health. More recently, we have essentially converted much of this work over the last couple of decades to develop a charity called Ironlife. And the objective of Ironlife is to raise awareness and provide education and information for people with iron deficiency and anemia. Our current focus is on a project called SHINE, which is a screening program in women of reproductive age to detect heavy menstrual bleeding and iron deficiency.
What drew you to specialising in iron deficiency and anemia?
Well, it's a bit of a long story, but as a surgeon, we're interested in how can we get someone through an appropriate operation without complications and enhance their recovery. And one of the biggest problems in people undergoing surgery is that they can be anemic before their operation. At operation, they lose blood and they often go home anemic. And those people who are anemic essentially have more complications and a poorer recovery. And that makes sense because if you've got two diseases, i.e. the disease that you're having the operation for, and you're also anemic, which might make you feel fatigued and tired, you're not going to be as fit as you could be for your operation. So my work has been exploring that in the surgical population. But then on the side of that, we have done work in fit and healthy people, and essentially that involves looking at women of reproductive age because women of reproductive age are disproportionately affected by anemia and iron deficiency. And we've done everything from working with the British Olympic team through to park runners and now more community-based screening projects. So essentially we've flipped our rather hardcore academic work based in the NHS into a more community-based approach. And the reason to develop the charity is essentially to give back, but also to help develop philanthropic donations so that we can actually develop it and we can provide more information and potentially help screen students and young women for iron deficiency and anemia.
I mentioned in my introduction that research has been poor. Give me some idea of the landscape.
Looking at women in the community, the answer is not very much at all. Every other person in the world is a woman, and 1 in 3 women will suffer with anemia at some point in their lifetime. Anyone listening to this podcast will be familiar that women sometimes take iron tablets when they feel fatigued and tired, or be familiar that they can be anemic. The commonest cause is heavy periods, and heavy periods affect 1 in 3 women. In terms of funding into this area, I can answer my personal story. Over the last 20 years, I've raised about $20 million in research funding. I've run over 45 clinical trials, 16 PhD students, and I have never once been funded for any project on women's health.
That seems staggering. What do you believe are the reasons behind it?
It's the unfortunate truth because major funding bodies often have very focused, disease-orientated targets, such as in women's health, it might be endometriosis or adenomyosis, are highly justifiable. But heavy periods are a symptom. They're not necessarily a specific disease. They can be caused by either of those two or other causes, but fundamentally, the symptom is heavy menstrual bleeding, and that's what we're addressing. And it's simply just not out there. It's not a subject that is featured in the press. Diseases are featured in the press, cancer is featured in the press, but women with heavy periods is not, unfortunately, featured in day-to-day conversation or the press. There's a desperate need to raise awareness. There is a groundswell, both from top down. The current NHS czar is leading an initiative of this. NICE are engaged, but we have a long way to go.
You're looking for public support to take Ironlife forward. What are your goals?
We know that 1 in 3 women suffer with heavy periods, but many women simply do not realize that. They might be, oh, my mother was like that, or my sister's like that, or I didn't realize that it was abnormal. And as I'm saying this, maybe listeners are wondering, what's he talking about? Well, a heavy period could be the need to double protect, get up at night time, worried about going outdoors 1 or 2 days, or the passage of clots. Any 2 of those symptoms. Now, to put that into perspective, if you read the back of the packet of your sanitary protection, a normal tampon can hold 10 to 15 mils of fluid and a maxi 30 to 35. Now, if you're changing that 10 times a cycle or 15 times a cycle, that's more than 80 mils of blood. That's a litre of blood a year. That's a lot. And it doesn't matter what you eat. Many women simply can't keep up with that. And that knowledge is important because for women to recognize that actually this may be causing them harm is important because there are very simple treatments that are available over the counter in the chemist. This is not about, oh, the GPs are not doing their job properly. The NHS is struggling. GPs are doing a wonderful job. We're not here to overload and criticize. What we're here to do is to give women the information to empower themselves to get the correct treatment. I've talked about heavy periods, but with blood loss or increased demand, which is during pregnancy, then you can develop iron deficiency. And if iron deficiency is left unchecked, that will lead to anemia.
Talking to you off microphone, you were explaining there's a lot of myths or preconceptions surrounding treating iron deficiency. Talk me through them.
For instance, eat spinach. Spinach has plenty of iron in it, but unfortunately, it's not particularly bioavailable. So to put this into perspective, a single iron tablet is the equivalent of about a kilo and a half of steak or 10 to 15 kilos of spinach. So having those spinach smoothies after yoga or whatever is of no value for the treatment of iron deficiency. And furthermore, if you walk into a chemist, there is a veritable array of different iron tablets. Most people don't realize that it's predominantly marketing and advertising. And if you read the back of the packet, most iron tablets predominantly that you'll see in a chemist will either be iron sulfate, gluconate, bisgluconate, or fumarate. There is no clinical evidence of difference between those tablets. And ideally, you should be on about 200 to 300 milligrams once a day. And most of the tablets that you see over the counter in a chemist are around about 10 to 15 milligrams. And so they're not treatment dose. So there's no good guide available in the UK where someone can go, hey, I found out that I'm iron deficient. What tablets do I need? How do I take them? If I don't get along with them, what do I do with that? And then if it doesn't work, what do I do? So the objective of Ironlife is to provide that information in a manner where people can use it and empower them to get their own treatment, often over the counter from a chemist, and where it's not working, to actually have the evidence to help the GP, not to challenge the GP, to help the GP and say, look, I followed the algorithm of care, I followed NICE guidance, but I'm here, I need some help. Can you refer me on, or can you give me some advice?
And we should talk about the impact of undiagnosed iron deficiency and anemia.
It's very significant. A lot of our work looked at the physical impact of iron deficiency. So if you have iron deficiency and anemia and you put someone on a treadmill and then you treat the iron deficiency and anemia, you can increase their VO2 max, i.e. their athletic performance, by around about 5% within 2 weeks of treatment. So that we're talking about is 10 to 20 minutes off a 4-hour marathon time in 2 weeks. If you're iron deficient alone, we know that that also impacts fitness in terms of endurance, anaerobic threshold, running economy, etc. But the mental health, it's also very significant. Women describe a brain fog, a forgetfulness, an inability to think clearly, a social anxiety. In a current project we've done, we've screened 1,200 university students. This is a very simple thing through a questionnaire and a finger prick blood test. And what we did is we empowered some of the students to be able to do the screening and become essentially a source of advice to other students. We identified that those women that suffer with iron deficiency anemia are 3 times more likely to have clinically relevant anxiety and depression. So it's a huge impact. I'm going to guess, but I'm going to suggest that iron deficiency may be one of the commonest preventable causes of mental health issues in young women.
The screening project you spoke of there is your SHINE programme that you've been able to execute thanks to the support of the University of East London. It's a project I know you're keen to replicate across the UK, carrying forward a torch first lit by the World Health Organization some years ago.
The WHO, when it first produced its document on screening, it's over 50 years ago, it might be 70 years ago, their first recommendation at the first document on screening from the WHO suggested screening for anemia in women of reproductive age. And to date, that hasn't been done.
Alongside extending the SHINE screening programme, what are you also hoping to achieve?
If I had a magic wand, we would have a central repository of advice on the website, which could be interactive, perhaps even an app development. Essentially, you've got 20 years of my research behind this. I helped write many of the guidelines in Britain and internationally. We also have a raft of people who are experts in iron deficiency, heavy menstrual bleeding, and anemia, all prepared to donate their time and knowledge for free. We need some young people to come along. Do we need TikTok? Do we need whatever platform is appropriate for the correct age group? And this is something that affects everything from 12-year-olds to 52-year-olds. At the moment, we're hoping to go for philanthropic funds to raise awareness. We would like to develop patient-focused algorithms. So, for instance, you can go online and say, well, actually, I found out that I've got heavy periods. What do I do about it? Click. Here's a leaflet. Here's some information. Are you aware that you can buy tranexamic acid over the counter in most chemists? Only 6% of women have heard of tranexamic acid, the first-line treatment for heavy menstrual bleeding. So at the moment, we're looking for support to be able to develop it further because we are right at the very start of this journey. And then it's engagement. Everything is about engagement in modern society now. But the more engagement, the more we have putting this message out there, then hopefully the more we'll listen to it as well.
My thanks to Professor Toby Richards. To find out more and connect through to Ironlife, visit wordonhealth.com. That's wordonhealth.com. Word on Health. For your very best of health. Incorrectly perceived as a medieval disease, data from clinics, GP surveillance and hospitals consistently indicate that scabies incidence in the UK has risen significantly in recent years, particularly since 2023. Multiple factors from increased social contact after COVID-19 lockdowns to treatment access issues and delays in diagnosis are, it's believed, contributing to this trend, and experts see it as a genuine epidemiological shift rather than a reporting artifact, underlying an important need to break down the stigma surrounding scabies. Dr Tess MacPherson is from the British Association of Dermatologists.
There's a general lack of public knowledge about the condition. So that means that people don't know they've got scabies. They don't even consider it as a potential diagnosis. And that can also be among health workers and pharmacists as well. So people are not being diagnosed maybe appropriately.
So Tess, to set the record straight, scabies is a highly contagious and distressing condition. Anyone can get it, and it has nothing to do with poor hygiene. It's caused by mites that results in an itchy rash. It's spread through close skin contact, and it should be treated, shouldn't it, quickly to stop it spreading.
Any itchy rash can be scabies, particularly itchy at night when you get warm. The skin rash can be quite non-specific. Particular features of scabies are little spots in warm areas in between the fingers and the genitals, in between the toes, then that's something to consider. But if you or others around you have an itchy rash, then you should definitely consider whether you might have scabies or not. The really important thing is you have to treat not just yourself, but anyone that you have potentially be in skin-to-skin contact with you. And that can be quite a lot of people. So if they're not all treated, then it's very easy to get reinfested.
If we do suspect scabies, who should be our first point of contact?
Certainly, if you know that you've been in contact with scabies, you have an itchy rash, you have any concerns, then you can go to pharmacies. The important things we've been trying to educate people on is actually the product information. Some of the treatments are not being applied correctly, not being applied to all of the skin that needs to be applied. And as we've mentioned, not treating contacts appropriately.
Scabies has a way of making people want to bleach everything around them. The good news is you don't have to deep clean every inch of your home. You should focus, though, on things that you had prolonged skin contact with in the 3 days prior to starting the treatment, as that's how long the scabies mites can survive off the body. So bedding, clothes, towels, underwear, etc. Hot wash them and then hot tumble dryer them. Heat is what kills the mites. Things that can't be washed that you've had skin contact with can be sealed in plastic bags for a minimum of 72 hours, or if you can give them a burst in a hot tumble dryer for 20-30 minutes, that will do. And across the rest of your home, a good basic surface cleaning will do using traditional household appliances and products. Tess, if you've done all that and applied the treatment properly, how long will that itchy rash persist? And what should we do beyond that?
Certainly, itch can continue for a week or two after treatment. If things are persisting, then that's probably a time to get some help from a health professional.
My grateful thanks to Dr Tess MacPherson. For more information and to link through to the British Association of Dermatologists, visit our website, wordonhealth.com. That's wordonhealth.com. Word on Health. For your very best of health. The theme of the recent World Sleep Day initiative is Sleep Well, Live Better, emphasising that good sleep is a foundation for overall health and quality of life, affecting physical health, mental well-being, productivity and safety. A recent poll by a leading insurer revealed 51% of UK adults say they don't get enough sleep, and other data suggests around 7.5 million of us get dangerously low levels. So how much sleep should we be aiming for? Lisa Artiss is from the Sleep Charity.
There is a general consensus that 7 to 8 hours is around the norm for a healthy adult, but we say anything between 6 and 10, depending on so many different variations around work and your home life. If you are regularly getting less than 6, it is a cause for concern.
It's not a one-size-fits-all situation, though, is it, Lisa?
There are lots of the people who can absolutely function perfectly well on 6.5 hours, and they shouldn't be stressing that they need to get 8, because actually trying to force sleep is actually going to start with a sleep issue.
Is it a case of quality over quantity?
Absolutely. We sleep in cycles, and within that cycle you go through different stages of sleep, and it's really important that we get all those different stages so that we feel refreshed. What happens when people don't sleep well is often they don't get as much deep sleep or as much REM sleep, and they're the 2 stages of sleep that are very important for things like growth, development, memory consolidation, learning.
So for those of us who aren't getting both the quantity and quality of sleep that we need, give us some tips and pointers.
Trying to go to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time all the time, it really does kind of program that body and that mind to sleep better. And look at your bedroom environment. Is there anything there that's stopping you sleeping? Is there like street lights coming in through the window? If there is, get some curtains and a blackout blind. Is there some external noises? Is your bed still fit for purpose? Is that place an inviting place to come to bed? Because what happens when people really struggle to sleep is they really come to dread bedtime. And actually, that's not what we want it to be. It should be a sanctuary. And my other top tip is really about that wind down routine before bed. Make that time before bed to wind down, process the day, relax. Then equally, there are lots of other things you can do looking at like your diet. Are you eating lots of big, heavy processed meals quite close to bedtime? You know, some people naturally have to eat later because of work and things like that. If you are using alcohol to make you feel relaxed, ready for bed, that's when there's an issue. Thinking about exercise, try not too close to bedtime. And if it is close to bedtime, it needs to be more like yoga or Pilates or something like that.
And finally, Lisa, when should we be looking to get medical intervention if sleep deprivation has become an ongoing issue?
If you've been struggling with your sleep for more than 3 nights a week for more than 3 months, you should definitely be seeing your GP, because that's starting to creep into like long-term insomnia. If you snore an awful lot, or that maybe you're making some kind of like gasping noises, speak to your GP. There is a condition called obstructive sleep apnea. There is treatment for that. And if there's any other kind of underlying signs around mental health or pain or tingling sensations in legs or anything like that, we would always urge people to see the GP.
My grateful thanks to Lisa Artiss. For further information and to link through to the sleep charity, visit wordonhealth.com. That's wordonhealth.com. Word on Health. On air and online 52 weeks of the year with Paul Pennington. Word on Health. Your personal prescription for your very best of health.